Career pathways at Avanade. Who is Avanade?
So Avanade was formed in 2000 as a joint venture by Accenture and Microsoft. And as a tech consulting company, our focus at Avanade is to work at our clients all over the world across all industry sectors and to help them transform using Microsoft technology. We are currently present in over 26 countries, and we are the leading digital innovator with Microsoft technology. For Avanade, and especially for the people at Avanade, it's not only about technology. Through the work that we do, it's about the impact technology can have on the users. And our purpose is to make a genuine human impact for our clients. One of our big focus areas at the moment is artificial intelligence. And as Kaisa and Jeb mentioned, that's also a field that they are active in.
Working at Avanade with a disability.
I started working at Avanade December 2018, so 5 years this month. I've always been in the IT industry, given for my sins, and it's probably good for me to give a bit of a backdrop on me as a person as well. So I struggled through school, didn't know why, easily distracted, couldn't really get grasp of learning really well, reading, writing, all that kind of stuff. And sort of just fell behind and fell sort of through the gaps and so forth. But I found IT, or the early age of IT, because I'm 47, computers and so forth were part of me growing up, and always intrigued me as to what technology was evolving, it was changing, everything was moving rapidly. But for some reason, I would stick to it like glue. It really interested me, and then I tended to lean more towards that. And I'm also a bit of a sci-fi Trekkie person as well, so that the future has always been something that I've been looking at. And that sort of lent well for me to sort of progress a career through default again into IT, and I in IT sales. Fast forward to where I am today, so I'm now the global lead for data and AI, as I mentioned earlier. So looking after strategic alliances, partnerships, and so forth. And it's a career path that I've carved out for myself, and I've built along that way. But when I got to Avanade, everything was very different. Reason being, and I can't call this out, previous employers I'd worked with and so forth had seen me as being quite sometimes erratic and also chopping and changing quite quickly. My thought process being very mind mapped and all sort of like connected, but yet they found that very difficult to understand. Which also then led to me sort of either having altercations with management and so forth, or finding myself leaving a position to then go join another company and so on, until I got here to Avanade. And whilst, while I'm here at Avanade, things changed. The values that we sort of live and breathe by, so even on day one of our introduction, our onboarding and so forth, I saw a very different vision with Avanade. And it was the core values that our company believe in. And for once in my entire career, they were values that I honored myself as well as a person. And it was also about empowering people. I think that was the main key one for me, which then led me to sort of really want to become more involved in what Avanade does from an inclusion diversity point of view, from what HR do, and so on, and to how I can make a genuine human impact. That was the key thing and the key mantra of what we look to do here. So for me as a person, given that backdrop, what I've given you, me is from school, what I was like, couldn't focus, couldn't take attention, to where I'm in the workplace, same kind of thing. It was through Avanade where there was a series of events happening in 2019 through my family, my father passing away and so on. But that led me to get help from Avanade. Avanade really sort of helped my career advisor, the buddy system that we have in place to ensure that you learn all the technologies that you're also involved with. Both reached out to me and said, look, make use of our employee assisted programs and so on. And through those programs, I got formal assessments and sort of found out formerly now assessed that I had ADHD. I do have ADHD, had it my entire life. I got diagnosed with that quite late, which was a bit of a light bulb moment. Sort of go back to what the story I just gave you, what I was like at school, through the workplace and so on. But it made a big difference that, knowing what the actual situation was, that I know I've got ADHD, it's part of me, it's who I am. And I've learned to develop a load of coping mechanisms through my own, good times, bad times, whatever you want to call it. But Avanade appreciated that. I also got medical help, which I sort of take medicine every day, but also was diagnosed as being autistic, dyslexic, and having borderline personality disorder. So quite a lot of things to throw in there. And the reason I'm bringing this to the forefront is I wouldn't have known all this if it hadn't come to the people within Avanade that actually made a difference, to actually encourage me to get help. And for the first time in my life, I did get that help. And so much that I could probably say it has transformed my life for the better, and the kind of people we work with, that we're very compassionate, we care, we live by our values, and everything that we do to return back to the business and to our clients, and likewise so forth. So that's been my journey to where it is. And with that, I have a passion, should I say, for inclusion and diversity, and in particular diversibility, which is an employee network group that we sort of co-founded back in, probably say early 2019. We started creating this, and this is where Kaisa and I have been working so closely together to focus on people with disabilities, whether those invisible, physical, temporary, or you inherit as well, because there are those that you inherit and then they become part of you as you sort of move along. So that's quite a broad range, but also with that sort of comes on with mental health, neurodiversity, neurodivergence, if I call it that. So those invisible disabilities that people don't really see. And the reason being is we wanted to make everybody aware within our business that everybody's equal. It's not a label, it's part of who we are. If you have a disability, if you're on the spectrum, whatever, it's part of who you are. It's your personality that you bring to the table. So that's what we've been leading with, and that's pretty much a very quick snapshot of 5 years.
Working at Avanade with a disability.
I grew up with slightly different childhood, joint pains and more like operations once I got older. I like to read. I also like fantasy and sci-fi. I have read a lot of books, because it's one of those things that are easy to do when you're just stuck. And that's kind of also how I got into computers. My mom bought me a very old Sharp computer that we hooked up to the TV and used on tape recorders and, old tech, really old tech. And then once I went to college, my parents have been, you have to be resilient, you have to take care of yourself, but you have to do it within the frames that work for you. Get an office job or something else where you can basically sit down as part of your job. So I started at the teacher college, but at some point internet hit Norway. This was the mid-90s. I started going online. It was super fascinating. So I switched over to IT, which worked better for me. Back then, I was not really a people's person, so my grades for anything that was like with the kids was horrible, but with the PCs and IT, definitely a good thing. So I saw myself as a very techie, non-human person, or not human-related person for a good while. Learned much more about IT, came into that, started working, and basically shut up about my arthritis as much as possible because it comes with a stigma. And I was still on the sort of, I don't need help, I can deal with anything, because that's how I'm raised, and of course it's good. So while we're talking about masking, in more like on the neurodivergent spectrum, you talk about masking. You can definitely mask as someone with a physical disability, and the effects are the same. You get really, really tired, and you get into the kind of situations that are not necessarily the best. But then during COVID, of all things, COVID has made it easier to some extent to be part of, to do good work, because I don't have to move around. You know, now it's winter in Norway, it's winter everywhere, but it's like really slippery. You do not want to go out if you don't have to. I don't. I'm sitting in my home office right now. And during COVID, that's when I got engaged with Diversibility. It was just starting up. I heard from our I&D team about this employee network, and I've been doing I&D stuff for both like women in technology, LGBT. I've been part of those kind of networks before. And when I found out that we had a disability inclusion network, or that was being started, that's when I decided that I will now be a more visible role model of somebody who has a disability and is not necessarily proudly speaking about it, but at least, you know, being open and talking about it and being a role model. That has, you know, that has led me the whole employee network into some, it's been great. You know, we have definitely put disability inclusion on the map within Europe over the last 2 or 3 years once we got this started. A lot of focus, and as Jed said, different kinds of disabilities. We are talking about different aspects, both the physical, neurodiverse, mental. We've set up support groups for covering specific things. Like we have a cancer support group. We have a long COVID support group, because they have there are large, you know, large groups of people who have been affected by cancer and may have some of the similar experiences, both as somebody who's had it themselves and who is a loved one for somebody. And we have some other support groups as well. And if we see that there's a need and there's like a critical mass of people who would benefit, then of course let's start a new one. And then we have the more like broader groups as well.
Opportunities at Avanade.
In Europe, we're currently recruiting across 16 countries, and many of these job opportunities you'll be able to find on the Even Break job portal as well. So if you are interested in browsing jobs outside of Europe, you can look at our opportunities globally as well. So don't miss anything out. You can check out our website as well. And we'll make sure that we drop a link in the chat as well for all of you to have a look at. But yeah, our interviewers and hiring managers have also gone through training through our license to hire program, which covers unconscious biases to help ensure that we have an equitable hiring and interviewing process too.
Unconscious bias at Avanade.
So it's training that covers various diversity elements, so both across disability, but also across LGBTQ, gender inclusion, and race and ethnicity. But it's something that's really important throughout an interview process to ensure that we're constantly being aware of the biases that we have when speaking to people, so that we're being conscious of our actions and our questioning as well.
Roles available at Avanade.
We hire from anything from sales, so there'll be people without technical backgrounds. We hire across delivery, project management, sort of business analysts. We hire for corporate functions as well, so HR and talent acquisition, for example, or marketing. So there are lots of different job opportunities beyond the technical. So the data and AI space, as well as some of the software engineering and cybersecurity. So there's a really broad spectrum of talent that we are looking for. really advise everyone to take a look at the Even Break portal, but also the careers website, where you'll be able to see some of the projects that we're working on too in more detail.
Career opportunities at Avanade for disabled people.
Through my own personal journey, when we created Diversibility, one of the key things we really wanted to do was to open it up to all employees to be able to have a career journey for themselves, not just an employee network that they take part in, but for it to make a difference to their career, an impact to their career, but also to open up a number of different leadership opportunities as well that they would not normally get in their current day-to-day job, for example. So everybody that we have within our employee network, committee leads, board members, it's a whole structure that we sort of had. So I think you asked Nina the question about what kind of job roles are available within Avanade. It's so varied. There is every job role, I would probably say within Avanade. There is, you go from anyone from the postal side of the business all the way to real technical solution architects and so on and so on. But the one thing we want everybody to do is to have an opportunity. That's the key thing. It's a critical thing for everybody. So no matter what opportunity you may start in within Avanade, there is always, I keep saying this word opportunity for you to move and evolve into Avanade, into other areas. We also are a very big global organization. I know this is, of course, focused on where we are right now, Europe and so on. Maybe it is global. But for example, say you're based here in the UK and you start a career, in technical, but you sort of evolve and you see the business is changing. Where, when I started here 5 years ago, we were very much focused on the modern workplace. It was around, enabling people to connect like this on Teams. Fast forward to everybody's talking about ChatGPT, Gen AI, and so forth. And it's a new area that people think, how do I get involved in that? So we do have career paths within Avanade. We do have learning development teams as well that will enable you to learn, develop, and to upskill into other areas you wouldn't normally think about. So, for example, you could be the modern workplace lead, or you could be a graduate that's just joined the company. You said, right, I'm really focused on this. But then through that program, you think, actually, I think I'm better suited to do that role. We'll give you that opportunity to be able to move across. We have career advisors, as I mentioned earlier, who will work with you on the right approach and to sort of see you be successful in that sort of chase, but also to build you up into leadership as well, which is what employee networks do, as I mentioned. So you wouldn't normally have that chance you will get that chance, should I say, in your normal role, but to be able to really fast track that and grow that. And coming back to, as I mentioned, if you're based here in the UK, but you're part of an employee network, you get the opportunity to then interact with people across our business. So that's not just UK, that's globally. So normally you wouldn't be able to do that if you're just doing if your marketing role was just focused on UK, you would only focus on that. But being part of an employee network, such as Diversibility, you get the opportunity to work with your counterparts across in North America, China, Japan, Australia, whatever it may be across the entire world. Yes, on marketing, but very much focused on diversibility, what the messaging we're sort of trying to produce, but also interact with other leaders as well, who really take this as a real important initiative, especially for IDPD. It's a yearly thing that we, as leadership, really take seriously and really want to, make sure the messaging goes across our entire business, because it helps our business evolve. It helps our business think differently, and importantly, if we're hiring and attracting talent, no matter from where you are, whether you have disabilities or not, whatever it may be, we want the best, one, for yourselves, and two, the input that gives our clients, because our clients will also sort of see exactly how we work, and we learn from our clients too. So it's a two-way interaction. So I think that's one of the key things that I really wanted to sort of make a mark on. That it's not just a job, it is a career path that we can give you, and a long-term career path as well.
Closing the disability employment gap at Avanade.
There's just so many factors at play here. But I think, naturally in the attraction and hiring processes, they are just not necessarily set up in a way to allow people to navigate them if they don't do so in a typical way, right? If you think about the typical interview structure, or even the accessibility of our careers portals. And then once they kind of get to that point of interviewing, they are faced with, biases throughout that process around what they can and can't achieve based on, if they share that they have disabilities. And so I think all of that is something that we're very aware of in the work that Emma, Nina and team are doing in talent acquisition is just really key to that. But I think that there's, the whole other part of it is once they join our organization, how do we create the right support structure? Because we don't want it to be a revolving door, right? And so that's something that we are also focused on. It is very much still a journey, but at Avanade, we believe everyone counts. And, to Jed's point, it's not really just about being a responsible business and understanding that we need to contribute to closing the disability employment gap. It's also about knowing that will allow us to be more competitive, because our clients also have people who have disabilities within their organizations, and we need to be able to mirror that, right, and reflect that. Even when we're going to visit on client sites, how are we being representative of that? So some of the things that we are really focused on, I mean, Accenture is, of course, we're a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft, so we call them our parents. They are doing a huge amount in this space, and so we're working with them on an accessibility audit to enable us to be more accessible through kind of various channels. Mm-hmm. We really are focused on ensuring that people feel comfortable to talk about accommodations that they need, and to be able to have clarity on what that process looks like. Again, very much we're on a journey, but we're partnering with Accenture to make sure that people can not only discuss those, but it's never viewed as a burden. We like to almost kind of reframe this as productivity tools, right? What's going to enable our people to be and do their best? And so some of the misconceptions that we need to kind of tackle are things like, oh, well, that's going to be super expensive. I don't think we can have folks with disabilities. No, accommodation is going to cost a lot. Well, no, actually often it could be a simple tool or piece of software that makes all of the difference. And actually, if they do need more, and it is more that money that we're spending, well, look at the value that these folks are going to bring. So, it's really about changing those mindsets. I think, we want to identify gaps. Again, I keep going back to journey, right? We need to identify where we need to do better. Of course, we do that through our employee networks, through all of the work that Jed and Kaisa just mentioned, our support groups, our networks that we lean on to ask of. But we also partner with a lot of external experts, yourselves being one of them, right? Even Break. But we proud to partner with Disability In. We also partner with My Ability in ASG. We partner with Disability Confident campaign in the UK, Specialistene in Italy, Spain, and Denmark. So we really understand the need to not only partner, but make them local partners, right? Because things will be different as you navigate this, in different countries too. And we're doing benchmarks. How can we be better? What are we doing at the moment? And we can identify through benchmarks what we really need to focus on. And the last thing I'll say, Relay, is that, with all of this, there comes a lot of need for education. So we want our employees with disabilities to really be in an environment where they can be and do their best. And that requires a lot of education of our careers advisors, of our managers, of our leaders. So some of the things that we do, we have a course specifically designed for our managers called Winning with Wellbeing and Inclusion. Right. We talk to them about how do you build psychological safety? How do you navigate difficult conversations? We do all of that. License to Hire, Nina mentioned already, so I won't talk more about that, but I think that's a really unique and brilliant program. We also have a neurodiversity toolkit that we've just launched. And this is essentially a kind of playbook on how to navigate basic things like team meetings, all the way to more sensitive conversations with folks who are neurodivergent, which we understand is not a monolith, right? Every single diagnosis, trait, can vary so much. And so we're giving people really practical suggestions on how to have those conversations, what simple adjustments can be put in place. And so, you know, a bunch of things like that. But every single person, all the way from our most junior managers, all the way to our executive teams, are constantly asked to participate actively in our education around disability. And so that's really key for us.
A real-life example of health and well-being at Avanade.
During COVID, I got it bad 3 times. So one of the outputs was it flared up arthritis in my body. So me and Kaisa were both talking to us. I've been leaning on Kaisa as a support arm to understand everything she's been going through. But, you know, it really impacted me, and I had to take a bit of time off work. Avanade was, again, super supportive. They understood one, the value as a person you can bring by looking after a person, what more you could do for them. If you look after a person, you know, they'll come back tenfold. It's that old saying. So I took time off and I came back, and they really wanted to understand, is that, you know, am I okay to come back to work? You know, is everything okay? Is my current workplace at home the right environment for me to sort of like to, you know, to be able to maintain my health is the key thing, but also to thrive and to be really sort of in the zone as such. So little things like, you know, they made workplace adjustments for me with, you know, looking at my desk. You know, the other thing you won't be able to see on this camera is I'm 6'7". So I have to stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down quite a lot, especially now that I've developed arthritis. And there's another one, I can't pronounce it, fibromyalgia, if that's what it is, chronic pain in joints and stuff like that, which means I have to be mobile a lot. So as well as having ADHD and not being able to sit still, I'm now running around and trying to, you know, get up and down, up and down, up and down, just so I can keep mobile, keep fluid as such. So, you know, the assessment they did was really thorough with me. It was everything from my seating position, the chair I sit in, whether the chair was big enough, locked up risers, the desktop environment I worked, and all that sort of stuff. And they also took into accountability things like my ADHD, my dyslexia, my autism. What's the best way of me working? As Deepa was saying, what's the best software for me to really sort of be able to mind map was one of the other things I said that I do naturally as someone that's ADHD. But yeah, again, the thing all I can say is they're super supportive. Our local HR team here in the UK worked really close with me, assessed me as I was going along so I could actually get back into work, fully supportive, and into full workload again. So that's just one example of how we do that. You know, we do that across, you know, our other HR departments across the world as well. So that's just a real life example of putting it into practice.
Thank you, Jed, once again.
Why disability inclusion is a priority for Avanade.
Most of us are consultants. You know, we go out and we look at how things are in different organizations as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I realized with the client that I am with versus Avanade is they have a very good focus on how can that company help charities or, you know, organizations that will help with disability inclusions or will help people with disabilities, you know, sponsorships, all of that, but not necessarily looking in on themselves. They have recently started that journey, but you know, they are not necessarily aware of their own employees. They're really good at handing money to good charities,
right?
Not necessarily looking inward. And that realization came to me just a couple of weeks ago, because that's what I like with Avanade. We are focusing internally. We do help, you know, we work with Even Break and we do have like sponsorships to some extent, but our focus is also very much on being inclusive for the people who are here.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of mindset. Not necessarily, you know, infinitely better than the other ones, but at the end of the day, this is my employer, and I really like that my employer actually embraced disability inclusion and has that on, you know, high on the list of things we focus on.
Getting back into work as an older candidate at Avanade.
If your skills are relative to the position, then we will absolutely encourage you to sort of come forward and apply, because we're not going to rule you out based on age. That does not happen. And there's a big thing within Avanade as well. So we go through a lot of programs as well. We're senior executives, senior leaders who have been here. We've been running since 2000. There are people that have been here since 2000, and then they're seeing the new changes, the updates, and they do get fearful of that as well. But again, it's to how we are as a business, how we evolve, how we embrace that. People can move into different roles. Doesn't mean you move out of the business. It means how we can move, revolve into new roles that keeps us excited, keeps us also, engaged and wanting to do more and learning more. I think that's the other thing. Keeps us young as well. So I would obviously say yes, please apply. Do not be fearful of if age is a thing. So it's not on our thing.
Does having gaps in your CV disadvantage you?
No, it shouldn't. I guess with all employers as well, if there's reasonable as to why there was a career break, it's a discussion that we always welcome. So it's something, given everybody has career breaks, more so now these days than it used to be in the past as well. So I think that's part of the discussion track. The way we'll look at things is just based on experience that you've got within the industry or whatever the role may be and so forth. Those things are more important, and who the person is more important. A career break, I'll say again, everyone has them. It's common. So please don't be fearful if you have a career break. I think, expect questions as to what that was, but hopefully that answers that one. I don't know if anybody else wants to address that more. That's more HR or recruitment than me on that one.
Just from a recruitment perspective, we hire people all the time who've had career breaks, for various reasons, right? And there's lots of opportunities that people can have through career breaks as well, and things that you can learn outside of work, right? And experiences that you can bring to the job. So you're more than just your CV as well, right? So we hire the whole person. So I think that's just the one thing I wanted to add to that.
Supporting newly diagnosed colleagues at Avanade.
We have had a number of people within Avanade who have got cancer, but we worked with them really well to obviously work with them, their families, and so on, as to how to really help them when they need, basically the job is second in that situation. That's the main thing I'm trying to say. So we're trying to help the person first, and it's all about that person, the rehabilitation, whatever they need to be able to sort of overcome it and to beat it. And also, we do have our healthcare schemes and stuff like that, private healthcare schemes, but putting that to one side, from a career development point of view, we'll put things on pause, we'll ease the workloads, we'll work with them on a what's best basis for them, and the teams that they work within as well will hopefully pick up certain workloads and so on to transition either sort of like off to a project or work part-time, or transition back into work as I did, and what's best way for them to move forward and to continue to develop their career here. So that's hopefully that's an answer. But it's all dependent on the person and the circumstances is probably another thing as well. And absolutely, this each person is different. Each person brings their own specialisms, their skills, and their heart to the business. So it's dependent on what that person is and how we can work with them. Is what I'm trying to say. It's not a case of stand back. It's a case of what do we need to do.
Employee assistance program at Avanade.
I think that, often some of these situations are really difficult for people to navigate if they're not familiar with, that particular diagnosis or whatever it may be. And we've got a really great employee assistance program in place as well, which is available not only to our employees, but also to direct family members. So, for example, if I was a manager and somebody on my team was suffering, of course, we can go through the workplace adjustments process as well, but I could call the EAP and say, I need some advice on how to navigate this. I don't know what to say, what to do, and they can support. Not only can they support the manager, but the person themselves can call and get that kind of 24/7 counselling and support as well. So I thought, that's just a good resource to mention, because I think that's a really great setup that we have.
Working in consulting as a deaf person.
Technology is a good thing. So depending on where you are and what kind of roles you have, there are a number of ways where you can do what we call speech to text using artificial intelligence, which basically picks up what a person is saying, like the closed captions on this. So, the person you are speaking to, you can still speak, they can speak to a device, your phone or something else, and pick up what they are trying to say and convert that into text, which if you're a deaf person, you can read the text. Hopefully also be able to type back with your on your phone, and now speech or text to speech recognition is good enough that you can have a decent conversation going back and forth.
Yeah.
So it may take more time than people who are hearing would have in conveying messages back and forth, but it's still possible to have one person who is hard of hearing or deaf and another person who do not know how to do sign language to speak that way. So we do have colleagues in Avanade who are hard of hearing, and they are using that kind of strategy all the time. So we are not using Zoom so much, we are using Teams, and there's quite a nice recognition of a lot of languages, not just English. The English recognition is better, but it's still in very many other languages as well. So it makes it more possible to be a consultant, even if you're like hard of hearing. It's probably not the easiest disability to overcome, but it is possible.
If you have a disability and need support with your career, join Even Break's Career Hive at hive.evenbreak.co.uk. Even Break, talent first.